Dr. Brent Halsabus, and welcome to another edition of Ask the Chiropractor. Ask the Chiropractor is a podcast that I do every week when people have questions about chiropractic care, or chiropractors in general, that I try to answer. Because I always think if you have a question about chiropractic or chiropractors, you should ask a chiropractor, since we are the only ones who are educated and trained and know what chiropractors do and don't do. Had a patient of mine come in today. She has some vertigo balance issues. I sent her to a physical therapist to help us work with her on her balance issues, to give her some exercises while I work on different parts of her spine. And that therapist looked at her and says, I don't know about chiropractors. I don't think I go there. I don't believe in chiropractors. So a couple of things happened here. One, we found her a new physical therapist. Two, I've always found it was really, really fascinating when someone says whether they believe in chiropractors or don't believe in chiropractors. Because I can assure you that I am real. I'm a real deal. You might be listening to me on your phone, you might be watching me on YouTube, but I assure you I am not AI, I am very, very real. So you don't really have to believe in us because we're a real thing. And what do I mean by that is, I don't ever heard anyone say, hey, I believe in dentistry. I think I'll give them a chance. It just sounds silly to me to say I believe in chiropractors, I believe in chiropractic care, because we're not a religion, we are a science. So how does that all start? How do the people start saying whether they believe in chiropractors or not? Well, my own personal theory is we have this textbook right here from Chiropractic. This is almost 100 years old. And it's a really cool textbook to go back and look at it. They try to break up chiropractic and make it one textbook to teach everyone how what the chiropractic part of our education is. Obviously, when we do anatomy, we use the same anatomy books as any other doctor. When we do physiology, we use guidance like every other doctor in the world. So we study a lot of the exact same textbooks, but obviously where they dive into medical or surgical procedures, we don't get that involved in those. We do learn about them, we have to for national boards, but we don't do those, so we don't do them as much as they study them. But we have a little part about chiropractic. And what's really cool about this is the 1927 edition. I know those earlier ones, this is the 1927 edition. And when you go through it and you look at it and you read the chapters and you read what they're talking about in chiropractic, you have to understand that they didn't have the ability to conduct the scientific research as we do today. And 100 years from now, they'll be saying the same thing. 100 years ago, they didn't have this ability to do this test and study this. And what's really cool when you go through this book, and I love looking through it from time to time, is that everything in here still holds up. Everything that's in this book about chiropractic holds up. So they were saying that patients go see the chiropractor, they have this going on, and when they have this going on, the chiropractor finds this part of their spine, and when they find that part of their spine and they do chiropractic corrections or adjustments to that part of their spine, that people recover. And because we didn't have, you have to talk about, this is the time period where even like looking at cadavers was against the rules, because religion said you can't, look at experiment with dead bodies, that's against our religious beliefs. And back then religion had a much more power in our government and our policies. And Dr. Palmer was the first one to bring an x-ray machine across the Mississippi. He used an x-ray machine all the time trying to find more science. But what's interesting to me is everything they theorized, they came up with their philosophy on how you heal, how the body responds based on the clinical trials they were performing. And so even though they couldn't show you direct cause A, direct cause B, they were able to show a patient came in with X, got treatment Y, and whenever we had condition X and treatment Y, this is the results we got. And so they came up with their philosophy on how this was working, what was happening, that when I performed this chiropractic adjustment, because this patient has ear infections, and they chronically have ear infections, and they're chronically at the same spot, regardless of the person, the age, the size, shape. Ear infection C2, ear infection C2. Let's start fixing the C2s and see what happens to ear infections. Now they came up with the philosophy of why that worked. They had the art of the adjustment. They had the science of writing everything down, right? That's all they had back then. It wasn't like we had MRIs back in the 20s. It wasn't like we had the 1920s, I should say, now that we're in the 2020s. It wasn't like they had those equipment available to them. Like today, a friend of mine's got a motion MRI machine. We do a chiropractic adjustment in the neck. We actually see that things move and shift. We see the spinal fluid regenerate. We see the venous flow open up and the pressure in the head go away, and the headaches and concussions feel better. And I think that the chiropractors back in the 1920s, they would have loved to see this machine that this chiropractor has. Some of my chiropractor friends today are using that CT scan that you've maybe seen at your dentist office, where they could do the whole CT scan of your jaw at one time. But they figured out if you turn it a little bit, you can see the upper two bones in the neck very clearly, get a real-time listing of what's going on in the neck. So this is some of the cool stuff that we have today in 2020 is everything they have in 1920. So it was a lot about philosophy back then. So when people said I believe in chiropractic back in the 1920s, I don't find that was such an odd term because, back in the 1920s we didn't have the science to show it. But today, when people tell me they believe in chiropractors or I believe in what you do, I'm a big believer of what you guys are. It kind of just, I think you don't have to be a believer. It's going to work either way because it's science. I have all the science in the world to back it up now. So if you're ever around me and you say that, you'll see that I'll correct you and say it's not a belief, it's a science. Trying to get the old slang term to go away and stop having people's head to us. And I always find too, it's really interesting when you go back and you look at a chiropractic book written in the 1920s and how they taught us to practice as chiropractors. And then you grab a medical book from the 1920s and you see how they were taught to practice medicine. There's some scary stuff in that 1920s book, right? It's amazing how people still to this day rely on the medical doctor to be the expert in everything. Back when the AMA was recommending cigarette smoke, right, to help calm your nerves when you're pregnant. Back when the AMA was recommending all kinds of things like leeches and all kinds of remember the phrenology, they put holes in your head and stuff like that. Yeah, almost everything they do in this book right here, 1927, almost everything they describe is still being performed today. So is chiropractic older than medicine? Well, chiropractic was defined as it currently is today back in the 1920s. We practice the exact same way as we did back then, so we've really gotten it down to an art on how we adjust. So, should you tell people you believe in chiropractors? No. Should you tell people you go to a chiropractor and have great success and you'd be really happy with the chiropractic care? Absolutely. But to say that you believe in chiropractors is kind of silly. In fact, when I'm out at a public spot and someone goes, I don't believe in you chiropractors, you better get ready because I'm going to walk over and pinch you to make sure that you know I'm a real thing. I'm going to give you a little pinch on your arm to show you that I'm real. It's not a belief, it's not a religion. So when people say, do you believe in chiropractors, do you believe in this and that, always correct them, let them know it's not a belief, it's a science, it's been backed up, it's been proven. If you go back and listen to my past podcasts, you'll see that I always stress the research papers and present the research papers whenever available, so you can see them yourself and get a good grasp on them and understand what we're doing here. So there you have it. So it's a short and sweet one today, but it's one of those little things that most chiropractors don't care to hear. I mean, we like to hear people believe in us, right? It's better to hear people say, I don't believe in you. But again, we're not a religion, we're not a fairy tale, we're not this and that, we're a real science, we have a lot of the backing, we have the, my grandfather worked really hard to prove that we were legitimate science, and how we did that was he made sure that we got student loans from the government to prove that the federal government recognized our education system, to show that we went to real colleges. After that, he got us into Medicare, because he knew if Medicare would reimburse chiropractors for giving care, it'd be hard to argue that chiropractors weren't a real science when the federal government even reimburses us for care and recognizes us. And that's how we got into all the different insurance programs and kind of hit mainstream was by my grandfather and his generation working that hard for us. So even him, he never liked to hear people say they believe in chiropractors, because he was out there working every day in Washington, D.C. with the International Chiropractic Association to prove that chiropractors were a legitimate, real thing. So whenever someone says those things to me, kind of just, rubs me the wrong way. I take it as a nice thing when they say they believe in us. When they don't believe in us, I also ask them which other laws of science that they don't believe in, because often those are the kind of people I want to party with, right? They don't believe in gravity, they don't believe in, the earth is round, I want to know what goes through their heads. I'm just kind of curious. So there you have it. Is chiropractic a religion? Do you have to believe in chiropractic? No, chiropractic is a science. We have all the data today to back up so much stuff. And like I said, it's so much fun to go back and look at the old history of chiropractic and how the first textbooks written about how to take care of chiropractic patients, and see how much of it today is still, this book holds up amazing compared to what other professions. I had never seen a dentistry book from the 1920s, but I bet it's come a long way since back then. Maybe not, maybe just pull a tooth, fill a cavity, I don't know, but today they probably have better options and solutions other than just having a hole where the tooth was or something. So there you have it. I hope that answered the question about, do you believe in chiropractors? Should I believe in chiropractors? Is chiropractic something I believe in? And no, it's not. not. It's a science. It just is. So if you have a question about chiropractic or chiropractic care, go ahead and leave me a comment. I'll get back to you. You can always go to my website, Rockford, DC, ROCKFORD, find us there on the blog, which you'll see all my previous podcasts. And other than that, if you have a question, submit it to me. I'd love to answer your question next week. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.